Hey YouTube, I want you to listen to this. I just played the same thing, but it's the exact same notes. Isn't that interesting that we can play or and make completely different things come out? So this is called voicing, and I'd like to talk to you today about voicing. So, okay, what is voicing? Basically, we're taking different notes in the chord and bringing them out more. You have to try different notes and then decide what sounds best based on whatever context you're working with. But usually there's a couple of things that will decide that. So that's what voicing is. So what we did here is I have these 5 notes. If I bring out the top, which is what we usually do by default, but sometimes we can find other little hidden lines and melodies inside. For example, I have a C, D, E somewhere hidden in this, but I'm still playing the other notes. It's just ways of bringing them out. So if it's a thumb, it's pretty easy, because you can imagine the thumb is heavier, and the thumb is pretty easy to stick out in a way that you get more sound of it. Second finger as well. Let's say I want, again, I just have these 3 notes in the right hand, but I want to stick out the F. So I make my second finger longer and harder, so that the weight goes straight into that finger, bringing out the F more. You have to also imagine the sound and hear it, and it will come out that way. So maybe you want to go. Usually if we have this, F, C, G, C, E, G, the most important note is going to be the third. Take out the third, the chord is pretty empty. So that note is very important, the third of the chord. So if I want to bring out the third, you might try using 1, 3, 5. You can also try 1, 2, 5, because it will make you lean more onto the second finger. Again, if you have a long second finger, more chance of getting sound out. You'll probably find after that the challenge is after this is to play it so that it doesn't sound, but you get everything down at the same time. You could also bring out the bass. And you don't have to necessarily bring out one thing. This is where eventually you start to think about this in a multi-dimensional way. So it's not just the top or the bass or the middle voice, but you bring out, let's say, the top, the most important, bass second important, middle voice third important. Or at times, sometimes, the middle voice is the most important, and then the bass is maybe second important, and the top is not important at all. So you have to decide depending again on the context. Also, if you repeat something over and over, you can do different things. I'm going to give you one more example from a Mozart. I think it's in a Adagio or something. I'm not sure what exactly this piece is called even, but maybe you'll recognize it. Now, see if I can find the notes. That's it. It starts like this. That's it. We have E flat, A, F sharp, C. So this is a very expressive chord. So there's also a sforzato on that chord. So our inclination is to do this naturally. Bring out the top. But if you look well at these other notes, you'll find that they're just as important as the top. So here's what we do. We'll find out what note is most important by elimination. We'll play everything but the top. that's not right. It's an A in the left hand. Sorry. We're not missing so much. Of course, the top is important because it's the melody. So in the context, that's going to be important. Now let's leave out the F sharp. Interesting. We see that it loses all its tension without that F sharp. So we find out that F sharp is very important in this chord. If we don't have F sharp, we're really missing something. Now let's leave out the A. A is also important. Here's what I find when I try this exercise. Is that there's less of a... I feel like the F sharp is more important than the A. When we leave out F sharp, we're really missing the tension in the chord. When we leave out A, not so much, just a little. So A is still important. F sharp is maybe more important than A. And then finally we have the bass. Of course the bass is also important. It's a seventh diminished chord, so all the notes are really important. But from our little exercise we did, I think we can deduce that the F sharp is a very important note. Because when we leave it out, we're really missing so much of that tension. So we're going to make sure to bring that F sharp out in the chord. So not just, but something more like this. So it's up to you to play and listen, try to hear the difference, see if you're hearing that note enough. You know, you can play the chord and try to hear that note. And if you think that you can't hear it, remove the other notes. And then you'll hear it. Ah, there it is. The other thing you can do is play the notes and then play the other notes. Add them. That's another trick that works pretty well. So you play the note you want. Another thing you can do is, let's say you play the F sharp, you know you want this one a lot, you do this one a little bit less. So play it like that, and this one a lot, and this one would be less, for example. And then reproduce it in one shot. So you have it. You might decide that these two notes are more important than these two. Then you just go in more into your right hand. Make sure your F sharp is coming out as much as the C. So this is a little demo on voicing chords. When you come to my masterclass, we're going to talk about voicing chords. It's a very important thing to do. And sometimes it's not just chords. Sometimes you have, you have something like, let's say, this is not a chord at all, but I'm going to show you something here. Something like this. You have an actual bass. So even if it's not in chords, here they're written in half notes. So it's very obvious. And then here you have a top voice. So you have a top voice here, and then you have a bass line there. So these are different voices, and you're going to have to bring all of them out individually in order to hear how they sound, and then develop a hierarchy of these voices and decide which one is more important than another depending on the context of the piece. If it's very hard to do this, pick one voice and just listen to that voice if you're not able to listen to several at a time. But I encourage you, as a practice, take something you're learning and try to find some interior voice. Try to find some inner line, maybe within some chords, something different, something that you might not have noticed was there before. Try that.